Hello, I'm Robert Knoll, and welcome to Guitar Zone. Well, this lesson is a continuance of what I call guitar hygiene. I don't know if there's ever been videos done on guitar hygiene, but I'm doing it. And let me just get into it. With this lesson is to do more with guitar maintenance. So all guitars can be different. There's so many styles of guitar, and maintenance really goes along with the type of guitar, whether it's acoustic, a classical, a steel string, or a dobro, or the vast types of electric guitars. There are ways of adjusting the guitar that we're going to go through a little bit of that, but I would like to just talk about the basic maintenance is keeping your guitar clean. Now, maybe it's not your style to keep guitar clean, okay? I've had a guitar, out of many guitars in my life, where I had a specific guitar. I never really wanted to clean it because I wanted to be grumpy and grungy. And I kind of got into that thing that it looked vintage and it was grimy and nasty. But that's what I wanted in the blues. That's what I wanted that guitar to be feeling. And to me, it looked good that it wasn't all shiny and nice, you know? Now, I really wouldn't want other people to play that guitar because it might have growing life on it, fungi or whatever, virus. I don't know. I just would feel not good about other people playing that guitar specifically. But there is something to that. Something about old guitar strings, too. I remember, I think, hearing Eric Clapton say at one time, he didn't change the strings because he just changed them as he needed to. As he broke one, he changed it. Most of us, though, change the whole set at one time. We go for a guitar setup. So, what is a guitar setup? Well, guitar setup is when they adjust the height of your guitar, the intonation, so that all of the notes that you play in areas of the guitar fretboard, so that the frequency of the strings are adjusted to the length of the string. It has to do with the frequency, okay? Now, on acoustic guitars, they can have different kind of bridges and all types of things. On the electric guitars, of course, we have the little inserts, and you use screwdrivers or Phillips head to intonate. And you would use a tuner to accomplish seeing the frequency, a visual of it. They have special tuners for that too that guitar techs use. So I have a few buddies that are guitar techs of mine. They've been doing guitars for years. It's their livelihood is fixing guitars and getting them to play right and doing all the cool things that make guitars right for you. Okay, so when we play a guitar, we want the action. There's the key word. The action of the guitar. We don't want it to be on the strings where it's buzzy sounding. We don't want buzzing notes. We want clear, clean notes. And we want it to play easily. So that depends on the height of the strings and the thickness of your strings. And it also depends on your frets, those metal bars, the height of them. Have they been used? There's grooves in them that would cause problems. So there's a lot of parameters, but according to the height, we want to look at the guitar, have a view of the string to the neck, and you can look at it from down looking or in different views. We want the height to be not so far that as you play in the higher registers of the guitar or upper register positions, that it has some uniformity. Generally, there is a little bit of a curve in most guitars that we want that is good. So it's very easy, and then it might dip a little bit, but it still plays very nice all the way up. And sometimes guitars have a tendency, by the humidity, by the climate change, that neck can can warp in or warp out. Sometimes you can take your neck and just pull it in a little bit and see where it should be. But you don't want the string to be too far off the fretboard. If you do, it's not gonna play right. It's not gonna feel right. The intonation, there's another key word for you. Intonation can change too by the height of the string. And of course, it doesn't feel good to play on a guitar neck that the strings are too far away from the frets or fretboard, because it's awkward. It's hard to play when the strings aren't where they should be. There are specific measurements that guitar techs use when they do a setup on your guitar. So there's that another key word, setup. So when you take your guitar into a guitar tech or a guitar repairman, most of the time you're going to ask them for a setup. When they do a setup, they're going to take your strings off and they're going to look at the height of the strings and how it plays and stuff, but they're going to maybe adjust the truss rod. There's usually a way to get at it either up here or down here. And they usually use these kind of tools here to go in there and stick it in there and turn the truss rod that's in the neck. The truss rod will make the neck either bend out or bend in, which way you might be turning it. So they can adjust the neck. Most guitars have truss rods. Not all of them, though. Many classicals don't. But the good thing about a truss rod is if the humidity, the climate, causes your woods to expand and contract, or the fretboard, or any part of the guitar, well, the neck can be adjusted. It can have adjustments to bring the neck back into where it should be to be very playable, and as playable as possible. Some truss rods and necks are more adjustable than others, and that may be what you pay for when you buy more expensive guitars, okay? So we could get more into this, but this would be something I think you could search on the internet and do searches and YouTubes on guitar setups and setting the neck. You would actually see a guitar tech show you how they set up the neck. So once the strings are off, they usually go about looking at the frets and seeing if the strings have caused a dip in the frets to be played so much that they need to be actually what we call, it's like kind of like a stone. They go and they rub it down the strings to kind of get the frets flat again. It's kind of like a sanding of the frets. Now, when you change your guitar strings, if you do it yourself, I've been doing this for a long time. Once my strings are off, I'll take steel wool and I'll go down. Sometimes I'll work on each fret and then over all the frets, and I'll use a heavier grade and then I'll use a lighter grade, and then I'll go through each fret meticulously and really use that steel wool. And what you'll notice is it shines them up and it kind of makes them feel better, okay? And it actually can make the frets just nicer, okay? You're going to get a lot of steel wool particles and bits, but that's when you use your cloth and you go and you clean your neck. And while I'm talking about necks, one of the things I do every time I change my strings, and sometimes just to help the neck health a little bit, the guitar polish that I might get from a music store or guitar shop, you can use that. Or you can use simple stuff like the good old furniture polish, Pledge. Or English oil is really good. But you want to spray that on your neck, and you want it to set in. Let it set for a little bit, and maybe take a cloth or something and kind of lightly go over it so that you see the English oil or the furniture polish you're using. Or there are specific guitar polishes and neck polishes that you can get from your guitar dealers. But you let that set in, because what it does is it sets into the rosewood or the maple, whatever kind of wood you got, and it's porous to some extent, and it will kind of bring the neck the wood back to life, okay? When they get too dry, when guitar woods get too dry or the neck woods get too dry, then you're in limbo of having that neck bend in or bend out. And that could be due to the humidity outside or the temperature in your house or your studio is too cold or too hot. The woods contract and expand. This is important to know. So this can cause issues. But if you learn how to adjust your guitar, do basics, most of the time you can adjust that out with a little bit of truss rod. I don't recommend beginning guitar players do the truss rod until you've actually sat down with a guitar tech and they've showed you how they do it and how they'll lay a flat, like ruler metal bar on here to see where the dips are and see how the neck health is. And sometimes it can have twists in it. All kinds of variants can happen. But once that polish or my treatment is sat on the neck for a while, then I of course rub it off, when your strings are off, it's also a good time to go down here and clean in between all of your tuners, because it's easier. You don't have any strings to kind of have to put your rag underneath and do some meticulous cleaning. It's easier to do. And since you're down there, you can also, a lot of guitar tuners have like Phillips screws here that allow you to adjust, to tighten how the tuner feels. And this is something you can do by trial and error, and it's something that you might want to look at other videos and talk to your guitar tech about. How should I adjust my tuners? How tight should they be? Or how loose should they be? I generally like mine tight feeling, but not so tight that I would have to really work at it. They've just got to work nicely. So that's another thing to learn about your guitar maintenance and hygiene, adjusting your tuners, okay? And then you want your nut to be clean. That nut has to be at the exact height, and it can be bone, it can be different. I've seen metal tuners and titanium, all kinds of different things you can use here. Graphite, the strings slide through nicely. A lot of things to learn about that nut. It needs to be at the right height so that your playing height here, ratio from the string to the fret, allows you to play easily and play chords that are cleanly without buzzes. If you get a buzz on a string, well, where's the issue? Maybe it's the nut, maybe it's the bridge down here needs to be adjusted up or down, or maybe the neck is bowing in or out. So there can be a combination of things that are causing your guitar to buzz in certain places or to buzz all everywhere. So also when you change strings, you go from a light gauge string to a medium or a heavy string, that also changes everything. There's more tension on the neck. So the changes can also occur by what kind of gauge string you're using. And that can also bow the neck. So there's all of these things to think about. I suggest, though, that if you're new at guitars and don't have a lot of experience, you need to do the research and studies to your guitar maintenance. There are right ways to do things and wrong ways. And I've never been a guitar tech. I owned a music store for a part of my life for a few years, and I actually taught at my music store when I had it, but I would do basic guitar setups. One of my students would bring a guitar and want me to put a set of strings on and do a basic setup. I could do that, and I actually had the Peterson strobe tuner that allowed me to do the harmonics, set the harmonics, and actually set the intonation with the bridges of most guitars. So guitars are different. You have to learn to set different kinds of bridges set in different ways. And tuners are different. Some have screws and adjustments, some don't. Some have even locks that lock the tuner in a certain way. The other thing is learning about your guitar strings. What kind of strings are you going to put on? What does it have on it currently now? You might ask a guitar tech if you were new. But generally this is a string I use on some of my guitars. It's Diodario, a phosphor bronze string. You try different strings. There's so many different brands and so many different phosphorus, nickel wound, all these different kinds. And the gauge, this is a 011 gauge, 0.011 to 0.052. So that's talking about the 0.11 here gauge down to a 52. So this would be considered still a custom light gauge string. Each string has a gauge, and they have different attributes to them, to the sound. They can be warm, they can be bright sounding, and then you want them to sound balanced. But this top could be a 010, which really gets you light, but plays very easily. Will it build strength in your fingers as much as a heavier gauge, like an 012? No, it won't. But it sure will play easy. Thicker the strings, usually the fatter, the bigger the tone. My friend Stevie Ray Vaughan, he played like really heavy strings, like 012 on his top string usually, or heavier, to like a 59 or 60 on the bottom, and they were great big fat strings. You'd pick up his guitar, and most guitar players would go, whoa, I can't play this. But Stevie had built the strength. And when he used those heavy strings on his recordings, and when you heard him live, every note he played sounded fatter than other people because he got used to playing on fat strings. The trick was also that he tuned down. He didn't tune in standard tuning, A440. He tuned down a half step, E flat, just like Jimi Hendrix did. So the guitar tuning has a lot to do with the playability. Is it right for you? Maybe, maybe not. If you want to imitate Stevie Ray or Hendrix, you should probably tune down. So when you tune down from standard tuning, it makes the heavier strings a little easier to play. So it would be like a guy in regular tuning probably playing 10s or 11s. So Stevie could use 12s or bigger, and it would still have that really good playing feel to him. And of course the thickness. The thicker the string, the fatter, the bigger the sound. And your chords, soloing, and what all. Okay, so electric guitar strings too, same thing. There's many different brands I use. Here's what I would call a semi-light gauge string, a guitar boomers. Up here it tells you 010 to 46. So that's this. I like to sometimes on my guitars, I'll go and buy single strings and I'll change that 010, that top string, to a 10.5 because I like that little bit fatter, little bit bigger sound that I get, and I don't know, I just like it. Okay, so classical guitar strings, are all nylon strings, and you have to know, you have to learn and research strings and try different strings until you find the ones that you really like. But also reading interviews of what other guitar players like and why they like them. Educate yourself about this. It's really important so that you start learning, seeing what the different feels of your strings are and how you play on them and how you want them to play. And as time goes by, you'll learn, and you'll learn what you really like and what really works for you. Okay, so now I want to step back to cleaning. I talked about treating the neck and letting that soak in. We use a polish or a lemon oil or something to make that neck porous and it can breathe again. It's not all dry. But we also want to clean the rest of the guitar, so I'll use that polish. I'll put a little bit on a rag on one side, and I'll go underneath my strings, and I'll try to get every little part, get all that dust off. But you want to have a soft rag. This is a soft rag. Sometimes you might get these types of rags that are soft. There are good furniture polish rags. That's probably what you want to have, and you can get those at your guitar shop or your music store, usually. Or you will just find rags. So you want to really go under the strings. You want to learn to put the rag under here, and you pull it through like that. So now I can go like that. And now actually when I have my rag underneath the strings, I can go down here and maybe I've still got some more treatment, I can pull it up underneath my strings and clean all in between those frets and give a little bit of oomph between each fret there, a little bit of rubbing to get that to be nice. And we don't want anything wet, but we've treated the neck, and it should have darkened the rosewood. And you're getting a shine on the guitar, and you want to go through the back. You want to do the neck, get that grime off there, and you'll notice it starts to feel good. Go, oh wow, yeah, clean, nice. And I like that feel, you know. But I have gone the other way, you know. As I told you before, I've had a couple of guitars that if you picked up my guitar and cleaned it, I'd be really upset because I didn't want them cleaned. It was probably an era in my life, all right? But I think for the most part, I want my guitars looking good and nice and safe for other people to pick up if I let them. And, you know, I love the wood colors. I love the woods. So cleaning is good. Polishing and cleaning. Like I said, you can go online and research it. You'll find people have their own styles, different styles. So you need to look at a lot. I have my certain ways. Other people have their certain ways. So there's tools you're going to need too, right? Well, always need pliers because sometimes you need them to pull out these little pins to help you a little bit. And then you also need them to cut the strings. You know, you want to clip them. We always call that giving it a haircut, and you want to be careful not to mar your guitar. So you got to get good at using the pliers and the cutters. And then you usually have regular screwdrivers that you use on your electric guitars and small different size ones and Phillips. Then I have these really nice little, these are from my neck adjustments. They actually got all my screwdrivers and all my deals to adjust the neck and adjust things right on one little deal here, you know. So you can get those at guitar stores and such. And if I really want to whip strings on and off, you know, when I take my strings off, I usually take those pliers and I just cut them off, which might not be really good to do, but I do it anyways. I do it real fast and carefully. But then a lot of people get used to the guitar tuners, you know, that you can put this little thing right on your tuner and turn it up and down, and that's going to help you tune your guitar real quick, either up or down, whichever way you're going. So these are nice to have and learn to use too, these guitar tuners. And of course, you probably got your, this was the Snark tuner, right? The Snark tuner, yeah. This is a good one, you know, just to have clipped on your guitar here and kind of look at your tuner. And it can also help you, you know, look at your intonation to see if it's good, to see if your E open sounds good with your E on the 12th fret. Your A open, your A on the 12th fret, your D, your D, your G, G, D. If those notes, any of those notes don't sound good, like A, B, and then you hit a B here, and it sounds really bad, well, chances are your intonation is off. There's that word again, intonation. Guitar players need to know that word, intonation. The frequency of strings. We hit strings and they have certain frequencies, and you kind of learn about that a little bit too. But we want the action of the guitar. The action, there's the other word, is how far the string is from the fret. You want really light action, really close action, or can the action get wider down here? So you want to learn about action. How do I set my action? How do other guitar players set their action? There's also on electric acoustics and such, you have the maintenance of your electronics, you know, and that's probably good to check. Make sure if you have a battery, or the old-fashioned styles, you want to check your batteries. But also, I was going to just show you here with this guitar. So the bridge down here, this is where I need to have that those different size tools, you know, like here I'll need a really little tool to go in here and adjust the height of these strings. Also to adjust how the bridge works. And on the back of this Fender Stratocaster, we've got springs back there, we've got other adjustments that can be done, and then electronic adjustments. Sometimes the pickups, you know, we need to work with them. So there's all kinds of adjustments. But if you have a good guitar tech, well, your guitar tech sometimes will allow you to be there and watch him do the adjustments, and you'll get to learn that way. But these days, of course, you can go online and you can see how people do different adjustments. So a lot of these adjustments I don't have the patience to do, and I know my guitar tech guys, they do this all the time. They do literally hundreds and thousands of guitars. So they're going to charge me for it, but I'm going to gladly pay that money because they do it better than me. They know I've been a customer for a while, so they know what I like. They know how I want my action, what kind of strings I'm using. They know what kind of guitar player I am and how I like my guitars to play. So you have that personal relationship with your guitar tech. So this is great that you, if you're serious about guitar, your guitars need to play right, and you need to know basic hygiene and maintenance. So I hope I've answered some questions, and if you have more, you can always email me. Do that like on the video that you like. That helps me out. And maybe if you're not a member of my Patreon site, subscribed, that might be something you might want to check out, because that goes into a lot deeper on all my guitar teaching and teaching you and talking about all kinds of subjects and lectures. And I want my guitars to play the best they can, the way I like them to play. And as you play longer and you get more experience, you start to learn more of what you like. How do I like my guitar to play? What kind of strings do I like to use? What feels best to me? What gauge? What thickness of string? How high do I want my strings to be? How do I like my pickups? What height do I like them? How do I like them? What sounds am I trying to achieve? The sound of the pickups, there's so many hundreds and thousands of pickups. What sound do I like the best? Do I like the humbuckings and the Gibson guitars, or the Fender Telecaster, Stratocaster? Do I like that sound? Do I like the Seymour Duncans? There's just so many different types, Lindy Fralins, pickups. But if you test them out by hearing a friend's guitar or going in a music store and playing, you start to learn. You start, oh, I like that, And it just is really interesting to tweak in your ear and how you care about your guitars by how you listen to what your guitar sounds like, how you want it to sound, what the possibilities are. So once again, I love using these words. You need to go on an adventure to discover. You need to go on a hygiene journey, a hygiene safari.